Are you looking for a cost-effective method of doing vulnerability scanning? Stay tuned. In this video, I show you one of the best free vulnerability scanners on the market, OpenVas. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So as we all know, vulnerability management is a critical part of cybersecurity. However, the problem is a lot of organizations, they simply don't have the budget or they're not willing to invest in a paid vulnerability scanning solution. That's where OpenVas comes in. OpenVas is an open source, free to use vulnerability scanner. This is perfect for organizations who don't have the budget or who are not willing to spend to purchase a vulnerability scanning solution. It's also perfect for someone who's learning cybersecurity, already working in cybersecurity and looking to get into vulnerability scanning. This is perfect for you as well. Enough talk, let's get into the actual demo. So first off, we want to open any web browser and head over to this URL. So don't worry, I'm going to leave a link for this URL in the video description, so no need for you to be typing out this URL, okay? This is basically the guide that I'll be following in this video, right? Feel free to follow the guide as well, right? However, I'm just going to show you where to download the file, and I'm going to move the guide so you can see my screen as I go through it, right? So the requirements to do this is VMware Workstation Pro 16 or higher. I believe VirtualBox is supported as well, and a couple different other virtual players, right? This is Greenbone Enterprise Trial, so this is meant to be used in a virtual environment. And this is the easier way of installing OpenVas, right? There are a couple other ways out there, but it's very tedious and a lot of configuration problems if you don't know what you're doing. So this would be much easier in my opinion. So you're going to click on download the OVA file. This is basically the image file. It should take you a couple minutes depending on your internet speed. I already downloaded the file, so I'm just going to drag this tutorial on my other monitor, right? And I'm going to follow, use this one for the demo. So I already have VirtualBox opened. Sorry, not VirtualBox, VMware Workstation open. You could use VirtualBox if you want, it's free to use. And I'm going to hit new, open, and here is the image file. I'm going to select that and go ahead and give your virtual machine a name. Doesn't really matter, but I'm going to name it OpenVas. And you need to browse for location to save it, right? So be sure you have enough disk space and stuff. The document has it. I think it's I'm not sure exactly, but I'd say at least 10 or 20 gigs of hard drive space, just to be safe. So I'm gonna search for a place on my computer where I want to save it, and yeah, this should be good. So I found a space to save it, and I'm just gonna hit import. Now just gonna give it a few seconds or maybe a minute or two to import that this image. Alright, so the virtual machine has finished importing. So I want to go ahead now and power on this virtual machine, right? See, we have the OpenVas virtual machine. So I'm gonna hit power to power on the virtual machine. So this now would basically take us through the actual, setup of OpenVas. And here it tells us where the web interface is available at. So this is my local IP address, the IP address of the machine that it's hosted on, and this is how we would basically access the web interface, right? And the GCM login by default, it should be admin, I believe. Alright, there you go. So it's admin, that's the default password, all lowercase letters. Right, your Greenbone Enterprise appliance is not fully functional yet. Do you want to complete the setup now? Yes, I do. Enter. No user for the web interface of your Greenboard enterprise, blah blah blah, has been created. Do you want to create a global web admin now? Yes. So I'm gonna keep this really simple. I'm just gonna use admin. You choose whatever you like. Admin. Oh, so okay, my bad. I did something wrong. So it's admin, and is it okay? The down key. You have to press the down key on your keyboard to set the password as well. So I just choose the admin for everything. Right, and let me tab. Okay, enter. Alright, user created. Success. Great. Hit enter again. There is no subscription key for the Greenboard Enterprise feed. Okay, so guys, there's actually two ways you could use this. You could use the enterprise feed, which is a paid subscription, or you could skip this and just use the free community feed, right? Community feed, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to use the community feed. So we're gonna just go to skip and skip this version. Remember, this is important because if you choose the subscription feed, that key, that's for the enterprise feed, right? So go ahead and skip this step. It's running a self check, and it's telling us that check if feed is up to date, severity normal, solution 90 days. You should download the newest feed in the feed menu. Okay, enter. Greenbone at OS administration. So guys, we could do some additional configuration if we wanted with the setup, maintenance, all these different things. But what we want to do now is we want to connect to this basically, right? So to do that, let me display the information for login, right? So this is the information. We'll be using this IP address 192.168.100.215, right? We'll be using that to actually access the Greenbone appliance. So what I want to do is I want to bring up my web browser again. So this has to remain on, right? Remember, this is basically like a server running there now. So we need to remotely access this from our web browser. So 100.215. All right. So I'm gonna come here. 100.215. And we would get this one in. Don't worry about it. That's just because we're using a self-signed certificate to access Greenbone, right? So we want to hit on advance and accept risk and continue. Oh, and there we go, Greenbone login page. So we want to enter the username and password that we would have set during the installation, and there we go, we're inside of the dashboard. Alright guys, so time for some fun. So here we have the Greenbone or OpenVas console, right? We have a bunch of different menus at the top there, you could see. Gonna start with the administration menu. So if we go on this, we could create new user accounts. So if we have additional people, say we're using this in an organization, we want to give other people access to it, we could create new user accounts and stuff like that right here, by simply clicking on this icon here. We could create a new user account and give them the necessary rules, etc. Right? We could give them admin permissions like what we have currently. We could give them guests, we could give them observer. So say for instance they are a part of a SOC, right? Security Operations Center, and you want them to be able to view the data but not be able to make certain configuration changes, right? This rule might be useful, right? So yeah, there's a bunch of different things you could do here in terms of creating different user accounts, permissions, rules, etc. If we head over to configurations, we have a few different things underneath here as well. Targets, This would be specifically things that we targeted for vulnerability scans. We have port lists, credentials. So if we're doing credential scans, we could enter those credentials here, right? Etc. You know, we have scanners. So OpenVas comes with the OpenVas default scanner, as well as it scans by CVE as well too, right? So a bunch of different features that we could customize here as well. If we go to sec if info, right, this basically gives us a lot of different security advisories, right? So pertaining to latest vulnerabilities, trends, etc. You know, so here's a good place that we could also come into to see like what's the latest trends, you know, in terms of vulnerabilities and feeds and stuff like that. And we could also, you know, this is NVT, right? Security feed. We also have the CVE security feed. We have the CPEs, right? And we have various security feeds here that we could, you know, have a look at, you know, basically, you know, if we wanted to. Uh, Resilience, this deals with compliance policies, etc. And we have assets, you know, so this is basically like hosts we would probably have scanned and operating systems of things we would have scanned on our network. What we want to do and what I want to show you here really quick, because I don't want the video to be too long, is scans, right? So this is kind of the bread and butter of what this tool is used for, right? So if we hit on task, this basically brings us to the task area, and here we could initiate a new scan, or create a new scan I should say. So what we want to do is we could do it two ways. We could, if you hit on this little one looking icon, we could go to task wizard. Here we could enter the IP address or IP addresses, right? We could enter entire network range of the targets that we want to scan, and this would immediately initialize a new scan right away, right? For you, you could simply hit start scan, right? So that's basically a straightforward quick scan. However, the more traditional way and probably the better way to do it is if we go over here and we hit on new task. Here we can actually create a task. So for future reference, we would have a particular task that we are targeted at, right? So I'm just going to name this as test, right? Task, right? And I'm gonna the scan targets. So I need to create one since this is the first time I'm actually doing a scan. So I'm gonna hit on that, and I'm gonna create one manually. So if I enter, I could enter IP address here of one of the hosts on my network, right? Or if I wanted, I could have the you know, the scanner scan my entire network range by just enter inside a notation there, right? I basically scan everything on my network. But for this demo, I just want to target a specific, target, right? And I'm just going to name this test target. And I'm going to leave everything else as default. But what we could do as well, just to show you, if there was a bunch of hosts, so say we have a CSV file with a bunch of IP addresses that we want to target, we could do that. We could go from file, browse, import that CSV file here, right? So say we have a file with all our servers, you know, in our organization. Instead of manually enter the IP address, we could import a file, right? Similarly, if there were hosts that we wanted to exclude from this particular scan, we could do that as well, right? We could browse a file and import that. Allow simultaneous, yes, I'm going to leave that. Going to leave these as the default. Here as well, we can specifically test for particular ports. You know, if we had the credentials, we want to test SSH, SMB, such like that, we could do that as well. However, I'm going to leave these things as their default. So I created my target. So you notice when I hit the drop down box, I now have that there. So just a real world scenario, we could have something like a group created for servers, for network infrastructure, for workstations, etc. And we could save those as individual targets, right? Test targets, right? also we have underneath here, we could choose the scanner. So by default, it uses the default OpenVas scanner. We could also scan by CVE. I'll just leave this as the default. The scan config is set to full and fast. However, we could choose these different options if we choose to, base, if we just want to do a discovery, etc. like that and stuff. But I'm just going to leave it on full and fast, and I'm going to leave the rest of these things as they are as well. So I'm going to hit save now, right? As we can see, it saved the task, right? It saved it there, right? And what I can do now, it hasn't started running the scan, it just saved it. But what I could do now is I could just come and hit the start icon there. And this essentially now would start the scan, right? So imagine you just have a bunch of different tasks created here. As I mentioned, one for servers, one for workstations, or whatever your use case. You could simply come and start whichever task you want at any point in time, right? So the status right now is set as requested. If I hit refresh, it goes to queued, and shortly it should show as running. Let me refresh again. Oh, there, didn't even have to refresh. Sure, it shows as running, right? So this could take some time. It's now at 0%, so I'm gonna pause the video and I'll check in back once it's finished. Alright, so we're back. And I have something to admit, guys. When the original test scan finished, it wasn't really that interesting. There wasn't much vulnerabilities on this particular computer. So what I did, I created and ran another scan against this machine, which had a lot more vulnerabilities, so way more interesting than this first one, right? So now that the scans are finished, let me show you how that looks. So we go over to scans and we go to reports, right? And this brings us to the actual reports. And I'm going to choose this one, right? The one that I ran against the more vulnerable machine. I'm going to select on that. And it gives us some, basic information here when the scan was launched and stuff like that, and the duration, so this took 47 minutes, quite a long time to run. Also, there's some other tabs here. There's the results tab. I'll come back to that a little later. There's the host tab. This shows me the specific machines that were scanned, and it was just this one machine in this instance. It also shows us the ports that were scanned as well, right? It shows me the applications that were on that machine. These applications, right, were scanned. It shows me the operating system. So this particular machine runs Ubuntu, right? And it shows me also the CVEs. So these are the CVEs that were found, right? As you can see, quite a lot, and you could sort them by severity. So by default, it's sorted by the highest, right, to the lowest, right? But you could change that if you want, for whatever reason, or you could change it by occurrences, hosts, etc. Yeah, but interesting stuff. And you could also get more information by clicking here, and that'll take us to a different page and stuff like that. But I want to show you that I want to do that deep dive when I go back to the results page. So it shows us the TLS certificates, error messages, user tags, etc. right? So back now to the results page, right? This is like where all the good stuff is. So this shows us the actual vulnerabilities that were found during that scan. As we can see, quite a lot of vulnerabilities: operating system end of life, passwordless login, right? A bunch of different vulnerabilities here, right? And similarly, we could sort them by severity, IP, location, all those sorts of things, right? So also to note here, right, by this little tab here, it actually shows us, gives us a kind of bird's eye view how we go about resolving this. So this one has mitigation. If you go to this one, you have a workaround that we could use. This one has a vendor fix, so more likely a patch or something like that that the vendor has released to fix this particular issue. But I think it's pretty nice. Just at a glance, you could see like what are some of the possible solutions to fix these vulnerabilities. Now, kind of taking a deep dive, if you were to click operating system end of life, here's where you get the breakdown of this particular vulnerability. So we could see the detection method used, right? We could see the impact, right? So it tells us that an end of life version of the OS is not receiving any security updates, so this definitely is something that you want to have remedied as soon as possible, right? And it also gives us the solution, right? So the solution is mitigation to upgrade the OS on the remote host, right? So this is some pretty useful information it gives us. It not only shows us some information about the actual vulnerabilities found, it also has a link to a wiki here, but it also gives us the solution as well. So it kind of goes hand in hand. It shows us this is what we found and here's the solution to fix it, which is pretty cool. Also, if you scroll down, there's the other vulnerabilities as well. So we're seeing our login service allows root access without a password. Again, it tells us the impact of the vulnerability, and it tells us the solution, right? Disable our login and use alternatives like SSH, right? And similarly, we could go, just keep on going down the list, right? A better way to do this, however, to review these results, however, in my opinion, right, would be to download this report. And we could do that quite easily. Simply go to this little download looking icon here, and here we could actually download the report, and we could choose a format, right? So we have XML, CSV, PDF, text, bunch of different formats. I'm gonna choose PDF, right? And I'm gonna choose OK. And what this has done, see, like a second within a second time, is that it has downloaded a PDF version of the report, the scan report, right? Gives us a date, gives us a little summary, and it gives us the content, table of contents. So it shows us the results overview, the results per host. It's only one host here, so it's just one host we'll see, but it gives us a nice breakdown as we scroll down, as we could see, of the various results for the vulnerabilities, right? So if we scroll down, as you can see, results per host, it shows us the CVSS score, right? As well as the summary, as well as the vulnerability detected, impact, solution as well too, right? And it continues to this page as well. And it does that for all the various vulnerabilities. So this is pretty cool, guys. And this report is pretty useful, like if you have to pass this along to a remediation team, or if you're doing the remediation and stuff like that, you could use this report. This is pretty handy. So guys, that brings me to the end of my overview of OpenVas, right? So let me know what you guys think. Do you currently use OpenVas in your environment? Do you use other vulnerability scanners? Do you use Nessus, Qualys, etc., right? I must say personally, I've used a bunch of different vulnerability scanners, paid and free, and I am really impressed. I would say OpenVas is like my top 3 favorite pick for free vulnerability scanners, or vulnerability scanners on the whole, right? Because it gives you a lot of value, for free open source product. And with that note, that brings me to the end of this video, guys. So remember, if you like this kind of content I'm creating, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing to my channel and hitting on the notification bell so you'll be notified every time a new video is released. As always, thanks again for viewing. See you soon.